Andrea Graf, how are you?
I'm awesome.
I'm awesome. Good. Thank you for coming today. We've been chatting, as always happens, for far too long before we got rolling here. But look, you rejected my coffee offer. Fine. Little butthurt about that. But aside from that, you are the president of the Can-Ada Republican Women's Group, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it group? Is it association?
Usually they say club. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about your club. I'm not good with clubs. I don't join any clubs.
Yeah, neither am I, actually. I'm really
You're the
not,
president. Don't tell me you're not good.
It's so funny. I'm really not much of a joiner usually. So it's really, really funny. And I'm a really good worker bee when I need to be. I'm good at letting people just they can
be themselves.
They can be in charge, and I'll just do what they want. I mean, if I have a good relationship with them, I'll tell them what I think because I don't always agree, but they can be in charge. The problem being that once I'm in charge, then I'm like, okay, we're going to do it my way then. Because if I can do that for everybody else, then you guys can do that for me, kind of a thing.
I hate when people want you to take charge and then they want to influence your direction.
Yes.
Like you see that actually in Charlie Brown.
Yes.
Right? So it's like lucid, like whenever bad things happen, they're like, lead Charlie Brown. So they appoint him as leader and then they're all yelling at him that he's making the wrong decision. He's like, I didn't ask to be in charge. You guys. Yeah, but like nobody wants to put the hand in the fire and then they just want to move the hand through the fire.
Exactly. Yeah. But I've really lucked out. We have such an amazing group of women. And all of them have had some form of leadership position and everything. They really understand what that's like. And they pretty much let me just take it and roll with it however I want. And I mean, not exactly however I want. So with the Federation of Republican Women, we actually are supposed to do everything through and do parliamentary procedure. So we have to have a committee actually talk about things. We have to have that quorum. And so it's all that formal procedure, which I'm getting used to. Formal speech is kind of a funny thing to me. So getting
point of
used to
personal
that
privilege.
Yes, exactly.
So weird.
All of the
Why can't you say? Can I say something real fast?
Exactly. Like just. I am I'm terrible at interrupting people and stuff. So I really, really have to rein myself in. Like, okay. And especially as the president, like you really, really want to actually do that correctly. So that's, oh my gosh, it's so crazy.
Try being a podcaster. I'm so bad. I had this show a couple months ago with Monica Church that was so bad. And like, I like Monica Church. Like I consider her a friend. And so, like I get, you get familiar with somebody and then you start giving them a hard time. And this whole show, like I totally just forgot myself and was just razzing her and interrupting her. And then people were like, what the hell was wrong with you? I'm like, oh, that came off really bad.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Yeah. So it's making me work those muscles and build those skills, which I actually really appreciate. But it's interesting. So, what I'm really, really thrilled because one of the things that we've all been able to agree on is that we want to be a club that really emphasizes talking about and sharing tips and tools and stuff about how to engage really positively in our politics, because politics don't feel very positive anymore and haven't for a while. Yeah. A lot of conflict, and conflict that is intentionally contentious, that is intentionally trying to turn people off. And so... can
you explain that to me? Intentionally trying to turn people off? What do you mean?
Well, when someone is engaging where they go straight for, from the get-go, right out of the gate, they go straight for character attacks.
Sure.
They go straight, that is intended to turn people off. It's intended to raise the temperature in the room enough that people start exiting. And that the only people left to engage are generally going to only be the ones who also want to be attack dogs and just rah, 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 rah. I'm right, you're wrong, you're right, I'm, and just do that. But there are really wonderful things, the easy things that, and feel good things that we can do to bring that temperature right back down. And so that's one of the things that we emphasize talking about and learning about. The one that I share the most often, because it comes up so often, is when someone's being personally attacked, just like I was saying, because it's so common in social media today. And it doesn't matter whether you agree with that person or not, because we want to bring that temperature back down. We want to get back to an actual discussion of ideas and the topics and the issues that are at hand, rather than attacking. And so when someone starts attacking, one of the best ways to bring that temperature right back down is you ignore the person who's attacking, because that's usually what they're looking for. Is you're either going to really agree with them or you're going to be attacking them, and that continues to raise the temperature. But you ignore them and you look at who's being attacked. And again, whether you agree with that person on the topic, the issue, or not, saying, "Hey, I am so sorry that you're being treated this way. That's not okay. That is never okay. And I just want to let you know that I'm here, and that I'm really sorry that you're going through this." And doing that automatically, so quickly, brings the temperature down and brings it back to much more of an actual discussion and conversation.
Do you guys try to shy away from the strategy that was recently portrayed on social media where the gentleman started rattling off like auction house verbiage, like there was somebody in the back screaming. He's like,
yeah. So,
I was like, that's a play. Like somebody goes crazy. That's a play.
Let's point it out. And
This kind of hostile to, and again, in a serious note, like I really appreciate what you're saying. And I've been wondering how to address, not me personally, but how as a community and as a state do we address this type of thing? I get a lot of criticism because I somehow have on the national delegates, right? Like, Senator Crapo and Risch and Mike Simpson. And people get really mad that I have them on. And people also get mad at the ideas. They get mad at me as a platform. They get mad at a bunch of things. And they also get mad because they're like, you're hiding from your constituents. You won't do a town hall. And in talking to a lot of the state legislators and then obviously those people, they're like, listen, man, it dissolves so fast. You set up a town hall, you get a location, all these people come, they want to have, they want to understand, say you got 100 people. And he's like, and then you'll have 5 people that just show up that are ready to throw a grenade, metaphorically, into the conversation. They'll start standing up, they'll scream, they're like, obviously they'll just disrupt the whole thing. And they're like, once that happens, it's over. Like the whole capacity to express a point is over. There is no more conversation once that goes on. So the question is like, okay, how do you address that? Like, how do you deal with that? Where do we go to have an actual conversation in the physical, town square? Because essentially what we're doing, what I'm participating in, is continuing a conversation outside of the public purview, but representing to some degree public sentiment, which is like, help me understand this, right? Now, people get mad because I don't yell at the individual I'm talking to or like tell them they're liars or bastards or whatever people want me to say. But how do we deal with this? And, again, as somebody who's trying to iron out strategies to engage and deal with people that are attack dogs.
Yeah. And it's really, really sad that that's their takeaway from those town halls, because in reality, it's a wonderful opportunity. I understand that it's a really uncomfortable opportunity. And if you aren't skilled and prepared for that kind of situation, it not just can, but does devolve very quickly. But it matters that we gain these skills to de-escalate and to bring those things back down and say, hey, I can tell that you're really upset and worked up about this thing. And I can understand that. And let's bring the temperature back down so that we can actually discuss it. And does that mean I'm going to bring up some things that you don't necessarily want to hear? Yeah, that's possible. But this is part of what it takes to have a real discussion and figure out how to resolve these conflicts instead of just increasing the conflict and having no real resolution.
Do you think that I hear what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Do you think that is in some way feeding the wrong animal?
Yes.
In that, say you're a super important person and I come and I want to, like, you know, pee in your Cheerios, and like you have this town hall and you're like an elected representative, and I come in and I'm just like, I'm gonna blow this one up because I'm not even gonna let her talk, right? And then you give me some time. You're like, hey Matt, like I hear what you're saying, like just hang on a second. And then I'm like, yeah, but then this. I'm like, but this other thing. And then you're like, okay Matt, like I hear. And essentially I have now taken the reins of the show, right? I've taken the reins of the town hall. My ideas are getting represented and addressed, and I'm sucking oxygen out of the room. And by the way, I may stop if I'm a rational person and be like, okay, well maybe I should hear what, you know, Andrea has to say, or I may just keep going. Right? Like these are the conflicts we see on a national level at times in rallies. You know, I remember the classic one from Bernie Sanders years and years ago. What was that? Was that 12 or 16 or something when Bernie, yeah. And his stage got taken over by activists, and they came up and like essentially took the mic from him. And they didn't physically rip it out of his hands, but he gave them space. And it's like, okay, but that now the precedence is if you're a group and you're loud enough, like you can take over his rally.
Oh, and that is very much not what I'm suggesting. I'm not suggesting giving them the room. I'm suggesting giving them the dignity that, hey, I do see where you're coming from, and your humanity and your view, you being able to be heard matters, and to feel heard matters. No matter how much I might disagree with your point, and I might see lots of flaws in your reasoning, or it might fundamentally go against my personal moral principles. You being heard and feeling heard matters because you're a human being and you matter. It's why this weekend for the IFRW, so the state clubs meeting that we had, I did a short presentation on what's called the Dignity Index. And it's because I learned a long time ago, and I mean a long time ago, how important it is to see every single person as a human that deserves to be recognized, that their existence and their feelings, their perspective matters. And that's where we actually find resolution. That's where we actually are able, because when someone doesn't feel like they have to be on the offensive because they're tired of feeling like they're on the defensive, so they're just going to attack. When instead you bring that back to, I am so happy to hear you out. Here's how we're going to do that. Let me help you feel heard, and that without just giving them the room, there has to be boundaries as to how we do that. Then we bring that temperature back down, and instead conflict breeds resolution instead of contention. And learning how to navigate that, so that it is a skill, and it does take intentional effort in seeking out those tools.
Yeah. Well, love the Dignity Index, love what you're talking about. And that is very much at the core of what I do. And people get very mad that I do that, right? Yeah. So like they get very mad that I listen to people. This gal got a hold of me. This was great. This was like one of the, this gal sends me a note and says, she had liked something or, made some commentary on a clip I put out. And then she sent me another note of follow-up. She's like, man, I don't always love the guests you have on, but I respect that you talk to them, and I appreciate your platform in that like you are talking to people and you are engaging in these. And like she even said, she's like, I really disagree with some of the people that you have on. Not only do I not like them, but like I fundamentally disagree with them. She was like, but that's probably like a good thing. Like I'm not 100%. It was like, because we're all trying to work this out where it's like, wait, why am I being exposed to things that I don't like? Like I should scroll past this. I should dislike it. And then the flip side of it is, yeah, but do you really only want to be in a world where you're surrounded by like the junk you like? Because like, how do you know what you like is actually right? Like you need to be challenged. You need that tension, right? So she sends me this note and I write her back and say, I was like, hey, thanks. Just so you know, I don't always like the guests I have. Like, I don't agree with them, but people don't know, you know, and they shouldn't. It's not like I dislike people. I'm like, oh, you're in, like, whatever. It's like, I don't always love the ideas that I hear from people, but I want to understand them. And whether or not people agree is totally up to them. But people get mad just that this person has had a chance to express themselves. And it's like, that's not the right way to be. That's the opposite of freedom of speech. Like we should have the ability to express ourselves. And if it's such a bad idea, just unequivocally, then people will understand that. And maybe there are some grains of truth to it. Maybe there's a whole lot of truth to it. Maybe there's, I don't know, like maybe there are overt lies. Like I have a pretty good sniff detector when I'm like, that doesn't smell right at all. But yeah, like these are problems. People need to increase tolerance for ideas that conflict with some of theirs, because unless they do, how are you ever going to arm yourself with enough information to beat up your own ideas and then feel convicted in your ideas? Like you need the best argument against what you believe, and then you need to wrestle with that argument in your head and be like, dang, that was a really good point. Maybe I have an incomplete concept of the world, or maybe my argument it needs a caveat, or maybe it's ultimately limited, or maybe it's just full on broken. Like maybe that's not a good idea. I would much rather have that than not know the argument for like, oh my gosh, like I've been walking around like an idiot. Like I'd much rather know.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I love sitting and I don't know, because I learned that that is the superpower to actually get to the truth. If you really, really want to find the truth, you have to sit in I don't know. And you have to sit in a long time sometimes. And just, I guess I'm just in a gathering phase right now.
I'm in a harvesting season.
Yeah. Yeah. And that does not come naturally to me. Yeah. It really doesn't. I grew up in a house. Well,
was it not house? It was an apartment, a yurt.
No. I mean, I grew up in a family that really liked to talk about ideas and debate in that. Also with uncles and that had a lot of conviction and a lot anyway. So when I was younger, I was very, very much a know-it-all, you know, because that was my safety. For me, what made me feel safe was, well, you know, I'm not going to be the best, whatever else, but I am a sponge for information. I can know stuff.
Andrea, isn't that like every 16-year-old? Like, isn't it every 16-year-old thinks they know the way the world is? Like, this is, maybe you were terrible at it. I don't know. But like, I mean, show me the 16-year-old who was like, well, this world's really confusing and I don't really know what's going on and I don't have anything to offer the world and I'm beholden to my parents because I can't provide for myself. And it's probably going to be like another 4 years till I have anything valuable. And here I go. Can I have pass the peas, please? Yeah. Like that.
Oh, yeah. No, it was. I was very, very human. And a lot of us are that way. But because I do genuinely care about the truth, I eventually, after getting knocked around, you know, figuring out just how wrong I was enough times, went, I need to figure out a better way to do this. And that really became my answer, was the more that I can sit in, I don't actually know, I'm gonna allow myself to not know, not be sure, for however long it takes to have really gathered a lot of information and have seen it from many different perspectives, before I go, okay, no, I know this. So there's not a lot of things that I actually say, I know this. I'll say, I have an opinion. This is what I lean towards. And with what I know for right now, this is what I would think is the solution. But I'm open. Like, tell me if there's something I'm missing.
Sure.
Yeah. And is it comfortable? It's a heck of a lot more comfortable now than it used to be.
Yeah, right.
You know, you get,
of course.
Yeah. Yeah. But
it's far more interesting.
It is.
Like it's fun. Like it's so much more fun.
And it makes other people more interesting.
Okay.
Because when you're not instantly, oh no, I'm right, you're wrong. Oh, you agree with me or you don't. So now you're wrong. That kind of a thing. It's not that automatic black white filter. People are so much more fascinating, so much more interesting.
So much, yeah.
Yeah, including the ones that you adamantly disagree with, they still add. There's still stuff that you're like, oh wow, I hadn't thought about it that way. That is an interesting, point.
I got to tell you something.
Yeah,
this is so terrible.
Go for it.
This actually happened this morning. I texted City Councilwoman of Nampa, Natalie Jangula, at 6 a.m. this morning, and literally texted her, I just want you to know, I actually don't believe we landed on the moon anymore. Because she posts so much stuff on the moon landing. And like, I initially was like, gosh, what are you talking about? But literally, it's been like a year of her posting things and me just looking at them like, hey, do you actually have an answer for that? Like, how is it that we can't go to the moon now and we have Elon Musk? There's no record of any schematics of the lunar landers. There's no telemetry. There's no, like, we can't reproduce something they did with slide rules in like the 50s. And we have Tesla. Like, we can't, SpaceX can't do what NASA did in the 50s. Now, mind you, SpaceX only carved a niche for itself because it could do better than what contemporary NASA was doing today. Like, they were able in a more cost-effective manner to enter or exit our atmosphere and go into space. Like, they did it better than NASA today. But they can't do what NASA did when we were driving like Chevrolets that could go 30 miles an hour max. Like this is so like now I'm like, oh no, I actually like, and it's fun. Like this is now fun because now you get to enter the phase of like, why would they do this? Was it really like a propaganda to beat the Russians? Were we engaged in an arms race with Russia where Russia was investing a lot of money into this program and all we had to do was convince them that we were investing more so that we drained their bank accounts as we did in, Afghanistan. Like we have campaigns to drain people economically. And if we can do it better than they can, then like we win the day. Yeah. Now it's just like, it's just fun. Now it's just great.
That's a legitimate strategy.
Oh my gosh. And now I can't explain all of these other things where it's like, they called the White House from the moon. Like we were 40 years away from cell phones and they called with no lag. Like I can't get a Riverside remote podcast done without having lag where it's like, sometimes you have and I'm on Sparklight, street, like I have contemporary internet. You called from the moon, bro. Like, did you dial 1 first? Like, what's go? I don't know. I'm out there.
Yeah. I mean, we could have that conversation. We could, but we'll have to. We'll have to.
My ribs are cramping.
Because anyway, but we'd have to do that for another time.
Yeah, that's another time. I have a different question.
I actually taught science, elementary science for 1 year.
Nice.
Yeah, forever ago, but yeah.
Oh my God, I
love science.
Cramping. I laugh so hard with these. It's just fun. Like I love sitting in the I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
It is. It really, really is. Anyway, gosh.
Can I ask you something? I know we kind of derailed. There, within the education world, I was in education for almost 20 years. Love education, love teaching. And I didn't understand until the last years of my time what the sound argument for single gender education was. And as I had young men, I have 3 boys, as I had young men and they started going through elementary school and I started opening my eyes, I'm like, okay, like there is a distinction here. And I used to think it was like, oh, don't get the dudes distracted by the girls. And like, yeah, there's definitely some of that. Like I did test prep for college. Like there's this one kid, Brandon, and he was glued. Like any girl comes into the room, he was just gone. Like he was disassociated. Like he was, but you know, obviously that's not with 6-year-olds, right? 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. And there is a very firm argument towards having a single gender representation where you don't have biases towards like, oh, well, like boys are always out of control. It's like, are they really? Or is this like the phase of development that boys are in, or wanting boys to, like the holy grail of elementary education is, you know, like a 7-year-old girl who can sit on the little carpet square perfectly quietly and like listen to what you're saying. And my boys are the opposite of that. You could imagine me as a 7-year-old, right?
I was the opposite of that.
There you go. So, there you go. So we're both not the holy grail. And so again, there is this real value to, no, we're not going to have that. We're going to have like, these are all boys. You can treat a class full of boys different than you could treat a class full of boys and girls. And I think there is value there, and not everybody agrees with it. Not everybody wants that. And that's totally fine too. You represent an organization that is a single gender organization. What within the political world do you think the value is of having an all women's association?
I agree. I do feel like we need to have single gender spaces. And it's funny because, you know, there's a lot of reasons why there's debate about that now. But I feel like, and it's not even just like safety so much as each group does tend to have some tendencies towards certain needs that the other group doesn't tend to, you know, gender. And that's any way that you can slice a group of people. There's always going to be things for that. That's why.
Pull this mic back towards you. You're like escaping the mic. All right, keep going.
I'm very good at that.
Yeah. The people want to hear from you, Andrea. Come on now.
But yeah, so any way that we can slice a group, we're going to have gains in being able to have those separations at times, not always. I personally think that for specifically public school, that's not a direction that we would necessarily want to go. But having private schools, charter schools, you know, any other model that does that, there are really some wonderful gains that we get with that.
And by the way, I'm not advocating for like all schools go to single gender. Like that's not it. I just saw really clearly. I was like, okay, there are some downsides here for sure that I didn't see as a younger person. Now I see them, and there are obviously upsides too.
Absolutely.
Right? Like I think there are one Catholic school system that I used to live near had single gender classrooms for a portion of the day, and then they had like sister schools across the street, and then they would mix, right? So you had some classes that were, you know, like an English class that was like all dudes, or an English class that was all girls, and then they went to econ and it was a mix, or something like that.
Absolutely. Well, and I think especially as Republican women, it becomes really a fascinating and important distinction, because as wives and mothers, women in general have a much higher investment into certain, you know, parts of our civic needs and duties, and that, you know, with regards to education, with regards to, you know, there's just certain things that they're going to have a much higher investment and interest in. How do we solve for these things, and also, and how do we support our politicians in a way that helps serve those particular interests and make sure that those things get taken care of. And
if I may ask, what are some of those things?
Oh, definitely education, and I think women are naturally more interested in what's going on with whether or not we want Medicaid, Medicare, you know, expansion or contraction, because women do just look at it a little differently. You know, when you're with children day in and day out for any season of, you know, of your life, you know, it doesn't, whether you're in it right now or you have been in it, you look at the vulnerable populations differently. And that doesn't automatically make you a Democrat. You know, it doesn't automatically make it where you want this done, that, you know, but it does make you look at those issues differently, and want to figure out what is the solution that fits those basic Republican, you know, ideals and principles of a smaller government,
self-reliance,
fiscally responsible, you know, all of those things. And still also we still really, really care about people. And that doesn't mean that the men don't care. I don't want to in any way suggest
That's what you
that.
said.
Yeah.
That's what you said.
But just that lens, when you're the one day in, day out taking care of people who cannot take care of themselves, does give you a different lens. And I think it's really, really important that we come together and talk about the fact that, yes, I'm a Republican. I very much believe in and agree with the principles of the Republican Party. And as a woman, the way that I interpret that lens isn't necessarily exactly the way the men around me will. And we need to have those conversations together, but we also need to be able to have those conversations just the women. And also, honestly, it's just having the social club, hey, yes, we're part of the same party, but we're not going to agree on all of the policy stances and things like that, but we can come together and care about each other. Because honestly, that's mostly what the Federation of Republican Women Clubs do. It really is more, in general, more of a social club with that as our common tie. Common tie. But we have huge diversity on, where these women, wonderful women, land on who should be in office and what policies should, go through or not, how any of that is. It's a huge spectrum. And I also think that creates a wonderful opportunity for us to be having the conversations that publicly we're not having enough of, about, hey, I care about you and we disagree about this. How can we come together and have those conversations, where leaving the conversation, whether we agree or not, and still caring about each other, still respecting each other.
You sound far too reasonable. There's a sentiment going around right now, especially with some of the more conservative groups in the state, that any compromise or any working with somebody is like a total loss. It doesn't matter, like you're just going to take an L unless you get 100% of what you want, and you make sure that the opposition, whoever the opposition is, gets none of what they want. It's not even like, okay, let's make it a win-win. It's like, no, it has to be a 100 and a 0. That is not actual conservatism or things of that nature. And that, it sounds like what you're talking about, it totally flies in the face of that, which is like, no, man, hang on a sec. Like, we can hear each other out. We can understand each other. We don't have to agree with each other, but this doesn't have to be like an overwhelmingly, there's nothing positive or even valuable in what you're saying or anything that actually should be considered.
Yeah. So I'm not a fan of compromise for compromise sake.
Sure.
At all.
Like, you check a box, like, I compromised 10 times today, and like, that makes me a better person. Like, that's my virtue. My virtue is that I can compromise. It's like, that's not
exactly.
That doesn't really work.
My thing.
Right.
But I always find it sad. I personally consider it a really missed opportunity when the perspective is, I'm so certain I'm right that I don't even have to hear out the other person's perspective and their real perspective. Not the straw man version, not the cartoon version that's really easy to make fun of,
Right.
You know, that you actually bother to steel man their position and understand it. Because if your position is really so right, then it will withstand all the other perspectives and all the other information that comes. And I find it a really weak position. You can feel strong about it. You can go, I know this. I'm so sure that I don't have to move. But that is as fragile and as brittle as it comes.
Yeah. I understand. Speaking of steel manning, I understand a lot of times when I talk to people that are articulating that position, I understand their sentiment in that most of the time they say, look, it starts with a creep. It's like a creep. Like if we give an inch, it's like we lose this and then we lose that and then we lose that. And then next thing you know.
Fallacy, but sure.
Sure. Right.
You can make that
like
argument.
You can. Want. Yeah. And I'm absolutely. It's like, okay, I understand that. But a lot of times the things they're worried about are things that happened in my former state. I'm like, it didn't happen like that though. Like you're saying anything that tends towards, you know, I don't know, increased government spending. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Anything that tends towards that is bad. It's like, well, first off, are you holding that principle throughout all of your decisions? Because a lot of those people that are worried about policies from the former state also voted for school choice, and that costs a lot of money to the state, right?
Exactly.
So it's like, okay, so we don't just disagree categorically about spending, right? Because like you're cool to spend on certain things. Okay, fine. Yep. But then again, you get back to it's like, okay, that's not what happened in that former state. Like there were a lot of other things that happened, and you're just picking one thing saying anything that gets us closer to this is going to be a problem. And we have very clear legislation in the state right now that also got updated recently about, you know, lewd and indecent. And that was, those were laws that were not being taken into consideration. And you know, in my former place. So we have these different problems where again, to defend them, I understand they don't want point X, right? They're like, we cannot get to that point, and God bless it. We cannot get to that point. Like we cannot replicate what happened. But if you're going to say, because we don't want that, we should walk 100 miles over here and then disagree with this. It's like, there's 100 miles in between here and there, man. There's a lot that has to happen. And like, it's not even clear that that's a direct correlation to that thing at the end.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and it's another thing, actually, it's an aside, but that we did at our
this whole podcast
women's,
is an aside. I know. Hang on, put a pin in that.
Another thing that we had at our IFRW meeting this weekend was we had Oscar Evans talking about logical fallacies. And of course, the slippery slope is one of them. And it doesn't mean that can't be something that happens, but that you can't just simply state, well, if this happens, then that's going to happen. You have to actually prove with real empirical data, information, of why that specific thing would actually happen that way, including like climate change and
I was just thinking Greta Thunberg.
Yeah. You can't just simply go, well, if it's going in this direction, it's going to do that infinitely, because the majority of things actually do have a natural stopping point.
Right.
Can humanity just really go in a direction to an insane, harmful, degree? Absolutely. We do it all the time. We're seeing that happen today. We've seen that happen in the past. We're going to see it happen again in the future. But we can't pick and choose the times that's happened and then gone, and that's what's going to happen right now.
Right. Those are exceptions.
Exactly. Right. Well, and it's often we're taking the wrong lesson from history because we so don't want this that we're just going to be terrified of anything that even sort of starts to look like that. And we're going to call it evil, bad, whatever. When in reality, however we got there by being human. And if we instead assume not those people did this, but I wouldn't do that because I'm XYZ, they did, and they must have been ABC, whatever. Right. But instead take it personally and go, if they could do it, if any other human could get there, then I probably could too. What would it take for me to get there. Because the way we got there was a very human way.
Right.
It wasn't through, man, what can I do to be the worst person? How, I feel like being genocidal today, or I feel like,
Yeah.
That's not how they got there. No one went, I want to be known as the most evil person to have ever, that's not how we get there. And when we take those lessons instead, then we're actually able to have a much better understanding of how they did actually get there and say, oh, okay, these are the things that we need to avoid. And how we get to the worst places, the key thing every time is exactly what we're doing right now, which is othering people. Removing some portion of their humanity just enough that I don't have to actually care about you.
Sure.
I don't have to actually care what your perspective is or how you got there. I don't need to understand it because I already know it's bad. When in reality, everyone got there legitimately, validly from their experiences, their understandings, the things that have worked for them or have not worked for them. And it makes perfect logical sense for them, regardless of what amount of logic may or may not be missing. Because we don't all put a ton of effort into just how logical and rational are my, thoughts, feelings, beliefs,
Right.
Yeah.
To that point, I had two people on about a year plus ago, maybe even longer. One was Dr. Megan Casper, and one was a gentleman by the name of David Ripley. And Dr. Megan Casper is a pro-life OBGYN operating. She's also an MFM, maternal fetal medicine specialist. So she deals with really high risk pregnancies, heartbreaking situations that people find themselves in, all kinds of things. She's pro-life, and she's never performed an abortion, an elective pregnancy termination. She didn't do it in medical school, none of it, right? And she feels that our medical legislation right now is inappropriate per her medical experience. She's like, okay, there are gray areas here that this legislation this causing huge problems. Right. And she's like, and I'm not doing abortions. I never have, but I'm telling you right now, this is not the right legislation. And that was her position.
It's not an informed legislation. It treats, it says, it uses the word abortion without understanding that the term abortion legally, so within where we put it in government, and medically is any end to a pregnancy that is not a live child, a live baby, any end. So every miscarriage that was had at week 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever, every single natural miscarriage is legally and medically a spontaneous abortion. And so when the law is written with no clarification that if the baby has spontaneously passed on its own and the mother needs any sort of medical attention, that we will treat that differently than an elective abortion. Yeah.
I mean, I don't.
Most people don't know that.
Right.
I didn't know that until I had a miscarriage and my doctor had it in my chart. He didn't say it, but when I saw my chart, I was like,
I'm sorry to hear that. That's, there are other problems also that, you could be in a situation where you are going to have organ failure. You're going to lose your uterus. You're going to, you have all of these problems that are stemming from this pregnancy. And Dr. Casper's position is like, listen, we have to care for, we have to take into consideration both parties, but this is a crazy thing that you could have a woman that is literally experiencing organ failure. And unless she's dying, literally on death's doorstep, you can't do anything about it. Yeah. And she didn't feel that she felt the law deserved some revision. Okay. So again, that's her. David Ripley is the executive director of Idaho Chooses Life. I got that right, isn't Idaho Choose Life? I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And he is staunchly against any abortion, elective termination. And you hear his story. And so I have Dr. Casper on, and then I have Mr. Ripley on, and you hear his story and you're like, okay, like I get where you're coming from. I get how you've arrived at this position. I get where your passion and your commitment to this comes from.
Yeah.
He's had an incredibly heartbreaking experience, and his story is incredibly human. And again, you have these two people, and you can hold both of these people in your head and be like, okay, both of these people deserve dignity. Both of these people deserve respect. Neither of them's the devil.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You know, and in fact, in the conversation with David Ripley, he was saying, like, look, the people at St. Luke's and the people at St. Al's and these doctors are not terrible people. They view, you know, they view medical procedures in a very specific way. And, you know, they had even found in their own conversations around legislation more compromise and common ground than people had anticipated. But again, like that is a case where you have people that if you just listen to them for a minute, and if you're super pro, you know, choice, you may not want to listen to David Ripley. And if you're super pro life, you may not want to listen to Dr. Megan Casper. But if you do, in good faith, at least I did when I heard both of them, I was informed on things that I had no idea, you know, or gained positions where I'm like, wow, I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and, you know, I mean, I just could say the same, what I've already said, which is just that no matter how much you find you disagree with someone, and how little you respect their position, you do not have to respect it. You will always find something that you go, wow, I have learned something important that I can take away from this.
Sure.
Every time. So what are you really losing out on? And this idea that you shouldn't platform, you know, other people, shouldn't give them air and stuff.
Yeah.
I understand it. I do. I understand where it's coming from. I understand how it can feel really dangerous. And just like you were saying with the town halls and how, but what about giving them space? What if it gives them all of this and then this happens and that, you know, but again, that's still slippery slope thinking. It's false logic thinking instead of going, okay, I teach my kids this. I always say, you're wasting your time to focus on what you don't want. When you focus on what you don't want and you do everything you can to avoid the thing you don't want, you usually get more of what you don't want. So it's a waste of your effort. It's a great place to start, though, because we're wired that way. We're wired to really have a strong reaction to what we don't like. Ooh, that didn't feel good. Ooh, I don't like that.
That's why we scroll through Yelp looking for the 1 star.
Yeah.
Instead of reading the 25 stars.
I know. But we should never stop at what we don't want. We have to take that and go, okay, I understand I don't like this. I don't want it. This feels bad. This felt hurtful, whatever it is. What do I actually want? And then how do I build that?
Right.
And when we start and we actually make our choices and our actions founded from what we want, then that person getting space to share their perspective actually helps us gain what we want. Because don't we want there to be better understanding? Don't we want to build bridges so that we can build a stronger, kinder, society and things? Don't we want to make sure that, I think we all want to limit, if not completely eliminate, corruption in government and organizations. Well, we're not going to eliminate it by going, these people are so evil and da da da, and we joke about how terrible politicians are. Well, when our elections are set up the way that they are, where we don't want anyone to change, we just want to make sure that they look good, we want to make sure they can speak well, all that stuff, you only really attract, for the most part, narcissists, because they're really good at that. They're really good at that. They are good at being charming. They are good at making sure that they publicly, can portray whatever. And The insults, water off a duck's back. Ugh, you're only saying that because you're against this or you hate that or whatever. You don't matter to me. Narcissists are good at that. People who really care and are principled and have that deep integrity, they hear those insults and they go, I don't want to be a part of that. This hurts. Do you really think that I'm this? And gosh, well, maybe I am. Maybe I missed something and I need to, and so then they go and they retreat in order to try and figure out where they are and where they belong. They don't want to be in politics. Well, but those are the people we keep saying we want in politics. And then we punish them for being that way. And we push up the people who are really good at playing the narcissistic game. Like, that doesn't necessarily mean they are narcissists. I just mean,
yeah, but they're winning at the game.
That's the part that,
if I win in a basketball game, then I'm a basketball player.
Yeah. It's really, we as humans, for the most part, aren't good at hearing all of these kinds of attacks and insults and, hey, you're screwing up, without taking it really personally. And they say, oh, but I don't mean it that way. You shouldn't take, you should just take it and use it to make better decisions. That's not how most people take it. It's not. Yeah,
I think I've become a little bit more sociopathic as I've cared less about what people say online about me. And like, I almost feel like I'm losing a sensitivity or like I'm getting a thicker skin. It's like, doesn't even matter. Like, people say crazy things. It's like, doesn't even matter. I went and did this event. I got asked to do this event up in Winchester. It was like the Lewis County Lincoln Day or something. And they were just like, will you come up and MC? I'm like, okay, yeah, like I'd be happy to, but like, you got to understand, like, I'm not like a banging drums for anybody. They're like, no, just come up and like, love your show. And I was like, great. And I guess within the community, the opposition to the group that was putting on this Lincoln Day event, it's like, they're getting this Democrat, they're getting this like socialist, blah, blah. It's like, wow, man, when did I become all of these things? Like, and those are like real people too. It's like, a younger Matt would have been like, well, I mean, like, do you know me at all? Right? Like, maybe we should maybe you should talk to me. If it's like, now I'm like, it's par for the course. That's not even a good insult. Like, come on, man.
Well, we can do the same thing for very different reasons. Because, you're saying it feels sociopathic. Sociopaths and people with really good boundaries do the same thing for very different reasons.
Right.
For me, it was a weird realization. It's the delusion thing again. Weird realization to realize that someone complimenting me doesn't make them right.
Oh my God, that's so great.
Yeah.
When did you realize that? Oh my God, that's great.
A few years ago, but it was so weird. It was so weird. I've never been one to take compliments super well. Like, everyone kind of has their own, but yeah, all of a sudden I was like, that doesn't make them right. And the people who are criticizing me also may or may not be right. And the only way for me to actually know is to allow myself to consider it, see what evidence I feel like is really there, and maybe even consult with someone else that knows me, fairly well.
Sure.
But then drop it, then allow it. It just is whatever it is,
right.
and move on from there. Either there was something useful there and I can move forward with it, or there wasn't, and that's fine too. That's someone really just kind of projecting themselves, and that's fine. But we all do it. We all project ourselves onto other people and tell them, we think we're telling them about themselves, but we're actually telling them about us, You're da 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 da, and then actually no, I'm all of those things. Yeah. Oh gosh, okay, I mean, that's just we all do it. Just like with, as much as I love the Dignity Index, and I because I've been trying to tell people this my whole life, but it was always this vague, like, okay, but if you can give them just enough space to feel heard and let them bring their guard down, both of you benefit from this, and everyone walks away a better person for it. But it was too vague, and I didn't know how to, so here comes the dignity index, and it's these 8 really clear statements, and 4 of them are a form of contempt and humiliating, othering and dehumanizing other people. To me, number 5 is like bare bones, basic, neutral. I don't see it as truly offering dignity as much as just like, that's just common decency. But that's me. And that's where I'm at. If you're used to being at what would be a, 2, 3, 4 with people you disagree with, a 5 is monumental effort. And I really, really do understand that. Anyway,
we're gone. So
I know.
Whenever I've been wanting that when you talked about the compliment thing, it's funny because whenever people compliment me, my head instantly goes to, what do you want?
Yeah.
It's always like if somebody comes at me with an insult, I consider it 100%. I consider it. I'm like, okay, you're like I interrupted Monica Church too much in this. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I actually did.
Totally,
And you know what? That's the type of job I have where I'm going to make mistakes and everybody gets, by the way, I could have killed the episode. I could have not published it, but I published it anyway. And taking it on the chin. It is exactly what you appear. I am absolutely human. I screwed that up.
Yeah.
But when people are like, hey, you do a really good job. Like, I'd love to sit down and blah, blah. It's like, nope, done. Like, it's like, I don't know who you are. I don't need anything from you. I don't want anything from people. I don't want to be part of your cult. I don't want to be part of your cult.
Oh, yeah. So, but that's, thank you for the reminder.
You're like, oh yeah, cool. That's where I was going next.
The sociopath. So, what's fascinating is a sociopath does the same thing as far as not placing weight and value necessarily on people's compliments and criticisms.
Sure.
But it's because, they don't count anyway. Like, those people don't matter anyway. They're just a tool. And so, same behavior, but very, very different reasons. And
the intent.
Yeah.
It's the intent, man.
Absolutely.
It's hard, and it's hard to know intent. I think ultimately at the end of the day, you have to have a long enough chart of scatter plot. Like you need a long enough x-axis that you're like, okay, these are the person's actions. What's their intent? Right. Yeah. And I think if you have enough of that information, then that's where, getting to know somebody, you can get past missteps. You can get past somebody having a bad day and they just screwed this thing up or they were crazy. And it's like, is this somebody really trying to like torpedo you? Or is this somebody that like you just happen to come up and then there we are, right? Like, and I think that's really important. Yeah. We're so quick to ghost people, and ghosting didn't used to be a thing, but now so many of our interactions are digital. And because they're digital, you can curate who you interact with and somebody just disappears. They're gone.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I think ghosting was always a thing.
Well, I think don't return the phone call. That's an easy thing to do. Yeah. But you can, for sure, you can cut people out of your lives. You've always been able to. But I think it's more of a thing now in that we have more friendships, we have more social interactions, we have more social groups that are digital based. Yes. It just gives you people more capacity to you're gone.
Yeah. Well, and it's more obvious that's intentional.
Yeah.
Because of all of it.
Somebody hit me up. They're like, I see my comments have been deleted. Yeah. And I actually engaged in a lengthy conversation with this individual. I was like, hey man, it doesn't look like you like any of the content I put out. You always just get really mad and you get really mad. It's not just that you're critical. It's that you say these crazy insults, all of this stuff. And we had this interesting conversation and he wanted me, as we were chatting before the mics went live, he wanted me to be the determining factor with what's true and what's not true. And I was like, listen, I'm not going to be that guy. We already have plenty of media outlets that tell everybody they know what the truth is. And if you like that format, you should watch them. I'm not going to be that guy. I think there are gray areas here. I think there are lots of nuances. These are hyper complex. I'm just not smart enough to be that person. Yeah. And ultimately, it was an important exercise to have the conversation. Ultimately, the gentleman did not feel that there was any value in letting anybody he disagreed with or felt was lying have a conversation. It's like, okay, that's fine, but you're not going to like this channel then, right? Like there's no reason for you to continue just saying horrible things on this channel, you know, because you just don't like it. It's like, okay, then like, don't watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Andrea, listen, we have gone places I was not anticipating today.
No, we didn't get to some of the stuff that I.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, I was just going to say in
you got to come back to the mic though. You can't talk if you're so
right.
far away.
I know, I'm so bad at that.
You're like, hey,
I really am. I know. Anyway, something in my face. It's like it. Yeah. Feels odd.
I get it. Yeah.
But which is funny because I used to sing, so you'd think that would be fine, but it's not me.
Can we discuss the Frozen series? The only series that popularized off-key singing.
Yeah.
Somehow they did it. I can't.
Yes.
Anyway, keep going.
Anyway. But yeah, because yes, I'm super passionate about what we're talking about in my club, Canada, about positive interaction, all of that. But another really, really big push that we're doing, and is equally as important, just for different reasons, is getting registered to vote and voting in the primaries. Personally, I really want, or my club, so not just me and the wonderful ladies I get to work with, we all really are wanting people to take the primaries personally. Like really, really do take it personally, because so many of our policy issues that we care about are pretty much determined by who gets voted in at the primaries. Because that's where we have that spectrum of, because realistically, most of the time, it's a Republican that's going to win the generals.
Right.
Whatever happens at the generals, it's going to be a Republican. So, and of course, I love that. That's great. But at the primaries is when we have a spectrum to choose from and say who represents me and the things that I really care about. This is my primary. It's my primary. I want the person who makes it past the primaries to be someone who actually represents me, or, my area, the constituency. And
that's what everybody should want, the person who has like a 99% chance of winning to represent them.
Yeah. But
if you wait to the general, it's over.
Exactly.
It's already over.
Exactly.
That person has been determined. And it's the primary where the magic happens. And you have 5 or 6 different people that are all articulating different positions and philosophies and all of that. And that's where you have to say, okay, this person's really concerned about school. This person's concerned about law enforcement. This person's concerned about books. This person's concerned about, okay, what do I think aligns with my position? Do these people are they one trick pony? Do they, like all of these different things? That's where you all right over there? Oh my goodness. There it is. But that's the primary. How embarrassing is this? I didn't even know what the primary was until like 3 years ago. And that's when somebody was like, oh, it's the primary. Like, I'm not from politics, right?
Yeah.
If they're like, the primary, I'm like, what's the primary? They're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's the vote before the vote. I'm like,
Yeah.
we have a vote before the vote? I thought we just had one vote.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I know. And it matters so much because the majority of voters are pretty much a one-issue voter.
Right.
But go find out who those people are and who lands on that issue that fits for you, that you feel confident is going to represent you well. And because right now in the primaries, we have less than 20% of our registered voters showing up to the primaries.
Some of them, it's under single digits.
Yeah.
Yeah, some areas, yeah.
Exactly. And because of that, the person being voted in very, very often does not actually represent the general constituency. They represent the people who showed up to the primary, whoever that is. Is that what you want? Are you paying enough attention to make sure that you're at least doing your part to say this is the voice. This is what actually represents me.
Yeah, and I am all about information, right? Like I'm attempting to interview every city council and mayoral candidate in the Treasure Valley, and that, Caldwell all the way through Nampa, Meridian, Boise, and I can't force these people to come do interviews, but I got an email last night from a dude who has a park named after him. And I don't know, I guess he found some of the interviews I was doing, and he was very complimentary. Didn't want anything from me, by the way, which I was very happy about.
Yeah.
But he articulated this point, like, people need to consume this information. Now, mind you, if you have an area where it's like you got 2 or 3 people and they're all kind of similar, okay, I could understand. You're like, listen, I'm not going to go to the primary because they're pretty much the same anyway.
Yep.
But for the areas where you have vastly different candidates, that's when supplying that information to the constituents in the easiest, most basic consumable manner possible, that's when it really matters. Because then maybe they find something like, look, they're on different positions, but honestly, I don't care about any of these positions. Or they're like, oh, I care deeply about that position, right?
Yeah.
But it's getting that information. The funny thing with the primary is I don't think civic duty or engagement for engagement's sake will rouse any movement. It has to be, do you care about this, potential outcome, or do you not? And if you don't care, okay, fine. But the idea, it's like, we need to uphold democracy, we need to do this. Like, that's not getting me out of bed. Like, it has to be like, I don't even know what the issues would be that like get me worked up. But like, I know there have been some, but the point is, that's what needs to happen. And people don't know about those issues unless they understand, unless the media comes to them and they're like, okay, here it is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And if you're even a little bit politically involved, you'll hear the whisperings of what's probably going to be at issue in legislation the next, next coming whatever. And so you can decide, oh, now I'm really interested because I know school choice is at, because that's what it was last year. Well, where do you land on school choice? The vast majority of the state landed very, very differently from what our representatives voted for.
If I may,
when it was polled, yeah.
We know about the people that called in.
Yes.
We don't know if that represents the state.
Absolutely.
These are different. And again, I 100% agree. It was like 7-1, the number of people that called the governor's office and voted and, hit the 1 or the 2. And they're like, don't do this. 7-1, people didn't want school choice, but that's only people that called in.
So, and I agree. That's why I'm saying when it was, and I say polled, but when it was put out there for people to share. And not only for the call in, because there was some polling before that. Sure. And again, same thing.
It's my understanding, yes. It's my understanding that whenever there's an actual poll, be it a call-in or a localized poll or something, that Idahoans in general do not favor school choice. So like 100%.
Well, and they just don't favor that specific school choice. Actual school choice in Idaho is like, we have crazy, amazing school choice. Right. And we did before that bill was passed. Right. This increased one specific form of school choice. It didn't increase anything else. Right. We have amazing school choice and always have.
Yeah. Yes, on the primaries. Yeah. Yes, win, lose, or draw, whatever the candidate is. It's like, if we could move the needle to, hey, the person who won the primary represents a wider swath of constituents, then we know ideas got beat up. We know it represents somebody who appealed to a broad spectrum of people, that was able to reconcile conflicts and find, win-wins, things of that nature. It'd be great. Could you imagine if we got to like 30% or 40% participation? What do we add in the general? Like, if you have a big general election, what do we have? So for the really big, because it's the presidential election, I think we're around 70, but honestly, I am not the numbers person. I know. Greg is amazing at that. But yeah, it's still not it's better than half. That's great. But it's still not a great representation. We really do have and that's the people registered. Right. The percentage of people actually registered to vote is
is really dismal. And it's too bad because it's the greatest thing about our nation, our government, is the fact that we get to vote. And does that mean our vote always matters as much as we want it to? No. But it does actually matter. It always matters, and it matters more the more informed you are, because then you can be sure it's going exactly where you wanted it to.
I dig. Andrea, listen to me. I feel like we could chat for quite a bit. Please come back. I would like to keep the conversation going about what the Canada Republican Women's Club is prioritizing, how they view different bills and legislation coming up. I mean, we really didn't get into talking about any of these types of things on air. And I think it's really important because again, there are bills that uniquely affect women.
Absolutely.
And they affect all of Idaho, fine, but they uniquely affect women. And I'm not a woman, and I never will be, and I never could be. And because of that, I'm very interested in understanding what women think about these things, especially conservative women.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the bills that are uniquely affecting women are done under, the flag of conservatism. So it's like, okay, but do the conservative women like that? Or are they totally in? And if they are, great. Are they totally out? Okay, great. Like whatever it might be. So thank you for making the time today. Please come back. Let's do this again.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.